This boy gets a new stepsister, and he ends up falling in love. The anime begins with two young people reflecting on how step-siblings are essentially just two strangers who have suddenly become siblings, having not spent much time together. The guy named Yuta Asamura thinks about how movies and books often portray step-siblings becoming romantic partners, citing the excuse of having no blood relation, despite the fact that these fictional worlds are very different from reality. Meanwhile, the girl named Saki Ayase reflects that people often say all siblings start off as strangers. But in the case of step-siblings, this doesn't change. They remain strangers until the end then. They pass each other on the street without even noticing, as they are just two strangers. They go their separate ways, and Saki meets up with her mother while Yuta arrives at his workplace, where he greets his colleague, Shiori Yomiuri. Later, Saki and her mother, Ekiko, meet a man at a restaurant, and the next day we discover he is Yuta's father, Taichi Asamura. Taichi tells his son that he plans to remarry. Taichi explains that the woman works at a bar, and that he met her when he went there with his boss. He also mentions that he has arranged a meeting for that night so Yuta can meet her, expecting his presence after work. Yuta is not bothered by his father's new marriage, saying that what matters is his father's happiness. After all, nothing will change in his life. However, Taichi warns that, contrary to what Yuta thought, his life will change because he will get a new younger sister, the daughter of his father's new wife. Before the meeting, Yuta sees a photo of his new sister, a small child, but when he arrives at the bar where they arranged to meet, Yuta introduces himself and meets Akiko, his father's new wife, and her daughter, Saki, who is practically his age. The guy is surprised, and Taichi explains that he celebrates his birthday a week before hers, making him the older brother, even though they are both in their second year of high school. Akiko realizes the misunderstanding and explains to Yuta that the photo he saw of Saki was from when she was a child. After she grew up, she never allowed anyone to take pictures of her again. The girl justifies this by saying she is not photogenic at all. Later, in the bar's bathroom, Saki tells Yuta she was relieved to see that he wasn't scary since they would be living together from now on. Yuta says that scary people can often look gentle. The girl then responds that Taichi mentioned Yuta is a hardworking guy saving up for college and getting excellent grades in school. Yuta retorts that criminals can also be very smart, which makes the girl burst into laughter. Later, they leave the bar together, and Saki says she wants to tell Yuta something before their parents come out, as it is something she can only tell him. Yuta jokes that he must be an amazing person to have earned her trust so quickly. Saki comments that his humor and way of speaking make her think he is an easy person to get along with, and precisely because of that, he should be able to understand what she wants to say. Then, Saki says she has no expectations of Yuta and doesn't want him to have any expectations of her either. The girl asks if he understands what she means, and he confirms saying he is relieved, which makes her feel the same way.
お母さんたちが出てくる前に
親に言えないことすごいな俺
そのユーモア話し方どれにも強い熱を感じない私の言葉も正確に理解してくれると思ってこの意味あなたなら正確に理解できるよね
安心したよ今初めてね
A few days later, Taichi thoroughly cleans his house to receive his wife, and Saki worried about making a good impression on them. Yuta finds his father's behavior strange, who explains that when you reach his age, this kind of thing becomes critical. At that moment, the two arrive bringing several bags full of things as a way for Akiko to show gratitude for being welcomed. Yuta finds the woman's exaggeration strange, just as he found his father's sudden obsession with cleaning odd. Then Saki explains that her mother doesn't know how to say no and ended up buying everything that was recommended to her, making Akiko embarrassed by her daughter's honesty. As soon as they enter the house, Akiko notices the cleanliness. Yuta starts to say that he and his father had been cleaning the house non-stop for the past few days, but Akiko comments that Taichi had mentioned how much they enjoy cleaning. So Yuta decides not to spoil the image his father wants to create and says that the Asamura family motto is to eliminate every speck of dust. Saki finds the family motto a bit exaggerated, given Taichi's apparent obsession with cleanliness. He welcomes them both and says he hopes the four of them can have a happy life under the same roof. With the exaggeration of trying to make a good impression, Saki and Akiko laugh at the situation and say it will be a pleasure to live there. Then, Yuta shows Saki her room and explains that he and his father already set up the curtains, the bed, and a desk, but she can change and arrange everything as she prefers. The girl looks around her new room and comments on how spacious it is. Yuta says it's a normal size, and Saki explains that she and her mother lived in an old studio apartment, so she never had her own room. The guy asks if the two of them slept together, and Saki tells him that her mother works at night, having a completely different routine, and for that reason, she always slept alone. Then Yuta apologizes, imagining that her previous life must have been more comfortable than now, having to live with two men in the same house. Saki says she doesn't mind and asks why he is being so formal with her since they are the same age. The girl explains that she doesn't mind the way he talks, but she imagines it must be normal for him to be more casual with friends and classmates, and for that reason, he doesn't need to speak so formally just to please her, if that's the reason for his formality. Yuta explains that his intention is not exactly to please her. To clear any doubts, he asks Saki if she prefers that he doesn't speak formally with her. The girl decides to be honest and says she would feel more at ease if he used a more relaxed tone when talking to her. After all, he doesn't owe her any respect or anything like that. Immediately, Yuta drops the formality, making Saki a bit taken aback by the speed of the change. He explains that it will be difficult for them to talk as if they were old friends, but since she is being honest and making her preferences clear, it makes things much easier for him. Saki laughs and comments that she's happy they can resolve their differences. She shares that her friends at school don't take her way of dealing with things seriously because they laugh and say it seems like she wants to make a contract with them. Saki continues, saying that because of this, she cut ties with everyone except for one person, as she didn't care about the rest since they didn't understand what they were thinking, and it seemed like a waste of time trying to please boys who didn't even try to communicate. Yuta offers to help Saki organize her things, and she accepts his help. Thus, while Akiko and Saki get to know the house better and settle in, Yuta helps unpack the moving boxes, even accidentally finding a piece of the girl's intimate clothing. The guy feels embarrassed by the situation, and Saki and her parents laugh at him.
優しいんだ。
Later, Yuta asks if Saki goes to Suizai High School. She confirms and asks if he finds it strange that a girl attends a preparatory school. He denies it and explains that he's asking because he also studies there. Then Yuta says that if possible, he would like them to pretend to be strangers at school, apologizing for his request. Saki responds that she doesn't mind since it doesn't matter to her, and maybe it's better for him that way. Yuta starts to reply when his phone rings, interrupting the conversation. Saki says he can feel free to leave or take the call in front of her if he prefers. He thanks her and leaves the room to answer the call. The next day, during his shift, his co-worker, Yomiuri, says he smells like a girl and asks if he has a girlfriend. Yuta is surprised to smell like Saki, and Yomiuri continues teasing, wondering how many hours he spent next to the girl to end up smelling like that. He doesn't like the joke and says he's leaving, making Yomiuri apologize, as she had already told her that he got a sister, and so she assumed the girl had already moved in. Then Yomiuri asks if his sister is pretty, and when Yuta confirms, she jokes that he's lucky to be living with a beautiful girl. He immediately says that nothing will happen between them and that she should behave better. Yomiuri apologizes for her jokes and explains that she's like that because she always attended girls' schools, which makes Yuta comment that she's ruining the reputation of girls' schools. Then he says he's worried and asks Yomiuri what kind of behavior is expected between siblings. His coworker responds that, in his case, he just needs to act naturally. After work, Yuta walks home, where he immediately takes off his shoes as usual and sees Saki on the couch. He announces that he's home as a greeting, and the girl doesn't know how to respond. Saki apologizes for her reaction and explains that no one ever said anything to her when they came home, as her mother always had a routine with different hours than hers. At that moment, the girl notices that Yuta is serious and says it's okay, since it's not like he treated her badly or anything like that. Saki continues, saying that her mother would arrive from work when she was at school and leave again for work when she returned from school, and because of this routine, they never met. Yuta comments that they seemed very close to each other. Saki responds that they are still mother and daughter and says that earlier they managed to go shopping together after a long time, and because of that, her day was very fun. Yuta ends the conversation by asking if the bath was ready and which of them would bathe first. He ends up going first, and the girl observes the bath being prepared. After a while, when he finishes his bath, Saki is already in her room with the door closed. He just knocks on the door to let her know that everything is ready for her to take a bath, wishes her good night, and goes to his room, closing the door after her bath. Before going to bed, she notices the lighting in the house, observing how everything was different from what she was used to. This is the end of Days with My Stepsister Episode 1. Thank you so much for staying on this channel and watching our videos. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can keep you updated with our latest content. See you in the next video.